Year 2. This is Monday's English lesson, and we're going to be doing a final bit of non-fiction writing about Bengal tigers. Now, before we do, we've got a quick warm-up to do. So as we go through, if you want to pause the video at any point to answer some questions, you can do that. So for our warm-up, we are looking at two types of sentence: past tense and present tense. Now, it's really important you learn to recognize these, and soon you'll be able to write them as well. So past tense is a sentence where it sounds like something has already happened. So the past is history, things that have already happened. Present tense means something that is happening now. So what we're going to do for our warm-up is we're going to look at two sentences at a time. One of them is going to be written in the past tense, and the other one is going to be written in the present tense. I want you to figure out which is which, and I'll talk about how you can tell. Let's look at our first one. When I went to the woods, I saw 3 giant, ferocious bears. That's our first sentence. And the next one, I go to the woods and I see 3 giant, ferocious bears. So you can pause the video here and have a think which one of these is past tense and which one of these is present tense. So this first one, when I went to the woods, I saw 3 giant ferocious bears, is past tense. It's already happened. And you can tell that by looking at the verbs in the sentence. I went, I saw. These things have already happened. This sentence down here is present tense. I go to the woods and I see 3 giant ferocious bears. So first one was past tense, the second one was present tense. Let's look at 2 more. And once again, if you have a look and see if you can figure out which is past and which is present tense. I sneak carefully through the trees, but the bears stare at me. That's the first sentence. Second sentence. Suddenly, the bears lifted their enormous dark eyes and stared right at me. So once again, pause the video here, think about which one's present and which one's past. So this time, this first one is present tense. I sneak carefully. That means it's happening now in the sentence. The bears stare at me. Once again, that is present tense. It's something that's happening now. So this one is present tense. And the second one is past tense. It's things that have already happened. The bears lifted their enormous dark eyes and stared right at me. So sometimes you will see these ed endings on a verb. Lifted, stared. That tells you that it's in the past tense. It's something that's already happened. And we've got our final 2 sentences for our warm-up. The bears walked closer and asked me politely if I wanted to share their picnic. That's the first sentence. And the second one, when I walk closer, I can smell their delicious picnic food. So once again, pause the video, have a think which one is past tense, which one is present tense. So this first one is past tense. Look, we've got those ed endings: walked, asked, wanted. So these are things that have already happened. The second sentence is present tense. I walk closer. I can smell their delicious picnic food. Those are present tense verbs, so there's no suffix on the end. Right, that's the warm-up finished. Let's look at our focus. Now, as I said, we're doing non-fiction about Bengal tigers. And I want you to just focus on these 3 words to start with. This is a bit of vocabulary that you might want to use in your writing today. So the first one is endangered. Then we've got extinct. And the last one is conservation. So I want you to pause the video here and have a think to yourself, what do these 3 words mean? So endangered means that there are not very many of these animals left in the wild. So tigers, or Bengal tigers, are endangered because there's not very many of them left in the wild. Extinct is when an animal, there are none left in the wild. So for example, dinosaurs are extinct because we won't see any dinosaurs anymore, even in zoos. They're not around anymore. So extinct is when something is completely gone. Endangered is when it's starting to go. We're running out of tigers. And this last word, conservation, is what people do to try and help animals like tigers that are endangered. So that could be planting new forests, it could be making zoos to look after tigers. There's lots of different ways you can do conservation, but that's looking after the natural world conservation. So we're going to make a quick mind map now about why are tigers endangered. Now, if you want to, you can pause the video here and have a think of your own ideas before I explain to you some of the ideas that I have found doing my research about Bengal tigers. So the first one is deforestation. That means cutting down the trees. Now, there's a couple of reasons that people do this. They do it to make space for new buildings like farms or houses, and they also do it for the resources they can get from the forest: wood, paper. So there's two reasons for deforestation: people chopping down trees, and this has an impact on the tigers. First of all, there's less food for the tigers. Now, obviously tigers don't eat plants, but they do eat animals that need to eat the plants. So if there's no trees, there are no deer. And if there are no deer, well, the tigers don't have anything to eat. There's also less water because deforestation can affect the flow of things like streams and rivers where tigers would go for a drink. The deforestation also means that there's no safe places for tigers to raise their cubs. So when a forest is cut down, you have all of these problems for tigers. That's partly why they are endangered. The next problem is poaching. Now, poaching is a bit like hunting, but it's illegal. Now, it's illegal because tigers are endangered. You're not allowed to hunt them because there's not enough left. But people still do for a couple of reasons. Some people like to have a tiger skin because they think it's a beautiful thing. And we saw a picture of that, I think, in one of the guided reading books. And they can also sell parts of the tiger as medicine. But I put here fake medicine because it doesn't really help people. It's fake medicine. So there's two reasons people might poach tigers. And obviously, being hunted is very bad if you are a tiger. And then we've got conflict with local people. So we love learning about tigers, but that's partly because we don't have any tigers in England, not in the wild anyway. And it might feel a bit different if you went to the park and saw tigers. So part of the problem they have are problems with farmers, because tigers, if they can't find things like deer and wild boar and monkeys to eat, well, they might go and eat your cows or your goats or your chickens, and the farmers don't like that. So that causes a problem. So here is our mind map of ideas about why tigers are endangered, what problems they are facing. So deforestation, which means they can't raise their cubs safely, which means they have less food to eat, less water. There's poaching for tiger skins and to make fake medicine. There's conflict with local people like farmers who don't want the tigers to be eating their cows and their chickens and their goats. Now, your independent task today is to write sentences from this mind map about the dangers that tigers face. Now, as you do that, we're going to look at an example here about poaching. I've got some success criteria for you to bear in mind. So we want to see conjunctions in your sentences. Don't write short, boring sentences. Add in some conjunctions so you can use more detail. Now, we've got conjunctions like and, so, but, because. Now, most of you get really good at using those regularly in the middle of your sentences. Remember, you can also use words like when, if, and while at the start of your sentences. Adjectives. Now, adjectives are describing words. We use them really well in expanded noun phrases. So when you're writing your sentences, make sure you're describing things carefully with some creative adjectives. And finally, we've got adverbs. Now, remember, adverbs often end in ly. That's how you can notice something as an adverb. And they tell you how something is happening. Let's have a look at an example then to do with poaching. So I've left that on the mind map there. So we're going to look at an example of some good writing to do with poaching. So it says, sadly, some tigers are killed by poachers. They are hunted because their beautiful stripy skin is valuable and it can be sold. Sometimes their body parts can be used as medicine, but it doesn't really work. So thinking about those success criteria, I've got sadly at the start, that's an adverb. I've got beautiful, stripy skin, so adjectives in an expanded noun phrases, and also valuable, which is another adjective. Conjunctions, I've got because and but. So I've used some of those conjunctions. I haven't used when or while or if, so I might keep that in mind to write for my next sentence. So this is just a model of some good ideas you can write about today. As I said, you can use all of the ideas from this mind map. We're going to send this to you on eSchools. Take each of these points and turn it into at least one sentence. At least. Each of these ideas should be at least one sentence. You might know more from other reading or other research or knowing about tigers. You can always include more as you go. When you're writing, please keep in mind those success criteria that we've just been looking at. This is what the teacher's going to be looking for when we read your writing. As always, send us your learning on eSchools, please, when it is finished. And we'll see you all later on for the afternoon maths. All right, bye.